Welcome to the Blooming League of Original Podcasts.
G'day and welcome to Thrash and Treasure, the torture chamber musical podcast that needlessly pits heavy metal versus musical theatre in literally the stupidest podcast nobody has ever heard of. Speaking of stupid nobodies, I'm Aaron, your host for today, and I'm joined at the hip, as usual, by my unusually unhip co-host, Gareth. How are you? Good, thanks?
Yeah, I'm great.
You great?
I'm great
Yep.
for an unusually unhip person.
You know I don't mean it.
I'm really not hip.
Totally.
I'm okay with not being hip.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
right. I've seen you dance, and I've seen those shorts you wear. And those legs in those shorts that you choose to wear.
Around Stonehenge, yeah, that was a highlight.
Yeah, so have you still got your beard?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Still here.
Well, I'm wearing a shirt for you today. It's my Land of the Long White Cloud.
Oh, kia ora.
Because you're looking all fluffy and bearded. So I got this from New Zealand. I took a 90-year-old around Wellington. Don't ask me why. Her family and friends trusted me with this woman to take her around Wellington, but I got her back safely.
A little bit hilly around Wellington.
Well, she didn't want to go into a strip club, so I was so disappointed. I
What a
really was, but
shame.
I took her to McDonald's. So
Okay.
that's what you got to do with a 90-year-old. You got to treat them to McDonald's. Them and children. I'm still the same weight that I was in episode 20, even though it's sometime later. So hopefully when I'm listening back on this, I am actually looking human and not skeletal.
Well, I gained 5 kilos in my sleep, so there you go.
Did you? Oh, I'm so jealous. I wish I had your discipline. Alrighty. But anyways, I think we should move on. I really don't think there's...
Please move on.
Last week's episode, how fantastic was that? What an absolute honor it was to have a Broadway legend on our stupid little show.
It was.
Absolutely amazing. But anyways, oh boy, guess what?
What?
I am absolutely thrilled to introduce today's extra special guest. Let's rock and roll back to 1994, where 9-year-old me sat propped up on a booster seat in the stalls, watching this man rave on as Buddy Holly in the legendary Rockstar's biographical musical Buddy. And within 3 months, I had signed myself up secretly for theatre school, which I didn't actually tell my parents until the day before it started, which was 9 months later. So in that time, we moved house and everything, and I knew I'm going to theatre school. No one else knew. I was so excited though, just to be able to live out my dreams from watching Rocky Horror and all these pantomimes as a child. But anyways, it's not about me. In 1997, he popped up again as Oscar in today's Chosen musical, where 12-year-old me copped an absolute eyeful and learned exactly what a dance hall hostess is. But again, it's not about me. Since inspiring my younger self, he has gone on to a vast career on stage, off stage, on screen and off, where he has been an actor, singer, director, producer, writer, butcher, baker and candlestick maker. And now he can add torture chamber victim to his many roles. Please give the warmest g'day to Mr. Jeremy Stanford. Welcome to the torture chamber. How are you doing?
Woo, 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 woo. Thank you. Yeah, that was a very lovely introduction. Thank you so much.
It is such an honor. Thank you for saying yes to this ridiculous invite that came out of nowhere on Facebook. So it's as I
My
said,
pleasure.
probably wouldn't remember this. You've done so much theatre, but as I say, seeing that show, seeing I had seen cardboard cutouts on stage before that. I had seen pantomimes and men dressed up as the mum and the witch, and I thought that's what theatre was, right? And also with Rocky Horror. And then I go and see this show where things are flying off all these billboards and your little studio that popped up from the stage and the whole winter dance party and all that, which I actually have that flyer from the program for the winter dance party,
Look at that.
which I don't
Amazing.
know. Some
Do you know
child.
what, Aaron? I've been looking for that because...
Oh, really? It's been ruined.
Yesterday, I got the sad news that Doug Parkinson passed away.
Oh, really?
And he
Oh,
was on the show for, God, must have been 18 months. And so we have a little Facebook, message group between the cast of the show that were in it, Showing me that was amazing because I was
wow.
I was trying to find it because it's got a photo of me and Doug on it. And we've all been messaging each other and everyone's very sad for the loss of Doug Parkinson, telling lots of stories about him. And, so So we've kind of all gathered around the memory of Doug the last couple of days, which has been quite special. He was a very special man. We loved him very much.
I'm so sorry for your loss, and I'm so glad I found it then, because I can't actually find the program. That itself is boxed away somewhere. I found most of my programs and all the nerdy stuff I kept, but some child, I don't know if it was me or the nephew, has written a 10 on it, so it's ruined.
Well, it's a good rating.
At least it was a 10, not a 3.
This is true.
But I don't know if it was me, because I was 9 when I saw this, and it was on the return tour. I wasn't sort of in your initial run in 91.
Right.
And that's why I think Dad took me to see it, and sort of my dad's that very stoic British father. I grew up, sort of with a Navy father, so he wasn't very, let's go out partying all the time, or let's go do this and do that. So taking me to the theatre always stuck out in my memory, because why did he do that? Because it was Buddy Holly. That's why. He was 17 in 59 when Buddy Holly died. So that was was his big rock star, and I think that probably put him in a bad mood for the rest of his life, I'm thinking. But anyways, that's another story.
I had a friend too who was a huge fan of Buddy Holly, and he was old enough to remember him coming out on tour, and he refused to come and see me at the show because he didn't want his memory of Buddy to be. I don't know if I was going to ruin it, but it was certainly going to change his memory of the gig that he saw back when he was, a teenager.
Yeah. Oh, goodness gracious me. But still on Buddy, because obviously we're not here to talk about Buddy today, but for my own personal curiosity, with that hiccup in his voice, what sort of...
what you mean is the hey, hey,
yes.
Hey, hey. Yeah, look, I mean...
He does it so naturally.
Actually, just a classic kind of Western little hiccup that he put into his voice and added it to rock and roll. It's kind of what he was amazing for, was taking all sorts of elements of music and adding it to his own particular recipe of rock and roll. So that was one thing that he added that made him quite different to other rock and rollers at the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, a huge fan of him and his music. Do you like him, Gareth? Yeah.
Everyone look. Yeah, you kind of have to if you like rock music. That's where it all began.
Yeah, he's the
it was Buddy Holly, and it was
original,
Little Richard and
Little segue here, but Rush have been Rush without Buddy Holly, because Buddy Holly really was the first white guy that put together a rock and roll band that consisted of just drums, bass, and guitar.
Yep.
And that's what Rush is.
Yeah.
Yep. Pretty much. Yep. Yeah, no, I am. And it's sorry, go.
That's my favourite instruments.
What is it?
That's all you need, honestly.
Yeah.
That's all you need in a rock band. Yeah, absolutely. A good lead player, fantastic bass player, and a great drummer.
Yes.
Anyways, we should move on, because we've just mentioned Rush. Oh, speaking of, also Gareth, I got a mug with your name on it today. I have to turn it around. It's Buffhead.
Nice. Thank you.
I also got a can of Coke, which I think I've put in the recycling already, that said Buffhead. I meant to keep it to do the double whammy on you. But
okay, thanks for that.
But my Coke has my name on it, and it says Angel.
I just have water.
Do you? Oh, good. Anyways, yes, now let's move on.
You should.
This week, Jeremy picked our metal album. And so would you like to tell everyone what you put me through this week?
Well, when you said you guys do metal on the show, I was like, well, what? I'm not a huge metal fan, but as a teenager, there was some really interesting hard rock that I liked, obviously Led Zeppelin, but Rush was something that was really quite different. And I don't know whether you'd put them into the prog rock category or the heavy metal category, but they definitely had metal overtones, and so I thought I'd put them in.
Yeah.
But there's some superb Rush albums, and my favourite one was Farewell to Kings, so I put that one into you guys.
I see The Who as proto-punk, sort of prototype punk, and I kind of heard proto-metal in this. Is that a thing? I have no idea. Metal is not my genre. I am learning here. Proto-metal is now a thing, and that's what I am calling Rush. So we've now coined that phrase.
I'll let Geddy Lee know that it's all changed.
Oh, I love her photos. Those babies are so cute.
Get on with it. What did you think?
None of my jokes land with you.
No.
Worst audience
No, that
ever.
did. It just wasn't funny. There's a difference.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, Godfathers.
Anyway.
Maybe I should test my material on children then. Maybe then you'll laugh. Anyways, we'll move on. Would you like to hear my review? Because I listened to this album a lot, and I have hopefully written the stupidest review I have ever written.
Okay.
And now I'm going to perform it. When I first saw the cover, it told me to rush, so I did, and I hurried to press play. And before I did, I noticed the song list, and upon saying track 2, I was all like, oh no, she's Xanadu. So anyways, remembering to rush, I pressed play, and instantly the fumes hit my nostrils, and I was like, yeah. But I wanted to keep a clear mind, and as track 2 started, my eyes glazed over, and I was like, Xanadu, my head's spinning, man. I was having a ball, man. I was like high up above the pumpkin patch. Yeah. Cinderella, man. That's no slip up. Wait, where was I? Oh, Madrigal, man. Madrigal, man. Like, but, like, where's the other voices? Like, why so many instruments, man? Too many instruments, man. Like, Madrigal, uncool. Like, stop. Like, where's the decapitation? It's not a madrigal without, like, decapitation. Like, has anyone else got the munchies? This music's making me... Oh, shit, man. Where was I? I don't know about this, man, dude. Signet X1, Book 1. Nah, man. I'll wait for the movie. But, like, this music's like, yeah, man. That's some good shit. 4 stars.
Wow. All right.
I have never acted stone in my life.
I don't think you still haven't acted stone, to be honest.
So, yeah, no, I like this. This was a good song. I'm a huge Jefferson Airplane fan.
Oh, what? It's not even in the same league.
No, but let me get to my point.
All right.
You always think the worst of me.
You said Jefferson Airplane. So.
Yes. Have you heard much of their stuff beyond Somebody to Love?
Well, they kept changing their name.
Well, okay.
Had a prop failure.
Change their lineup and change their name. Anyways, but they are psychedelic. This felt like, I don't know if... It sort of felt very vanilla to me, in a way. I really enjoyed it. I did. I listened to this album maybe 20 times.
Okay.
And there's some really good songs on there. I didn't... Obviously, Anyways, yeah, no, so I called it vanilla psychedelia.
Wow. Okay.
Does that offend all the Rush fans out there?
I reckon you'd cause a bit of ire from some of the Rush fans by calling them vanilla.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I actually think they might beat a path to your door, Aaron.
I'm 46 kilograms, so if they want to come at me, good luck. They're gonna flick me, and I'm gonna fall over. So it's really not gonna satisfy them at all. Really,
this is it's hard to pick a great Rush album because they change so much during their career.
I like Madonna,
and they're prog rock, absolutely
proto metal.
They probably influence more metal bands than or as many metal bands than anyone else. And Farewell to Kings is one of my when this came up, I thought, yep, this is my stuff. This is my music. There's some great tracks on there. Cinderella Man's amazing. The opening track is just kind of sets the tone for the whole album. Neil Peart, who we lost recently, sadly, that guy was, he was known as the drummer's drummer.
You've got to tell me when we've lost someone when I'm about to review their music, Gareth. We went through this the other week when I was devastated.
It was a few years ago now.
Okay, that's right.
When I say recently, I say recently, it's like...
Jesus Christ, you give me a heart attack.
We're all waiting for one more tour and... and that was the end of it. But, and you add, when you talk about guitars, bass and drums, the rhythm section of Rush, Geddy Lee and Neil Peart, I could listen to Geddy Lee play bass. I could just tune everything. I could shut everything else out and just listen to his bass lines. This was in 1977, they were kind of in that era. There was lots of experimentation going on and, Zeppelin was out there doing crazy things. And, there's this band from Canada that came along and pretty much blew the roof off everything. And and they're a kind of a musician's band, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
they go through so many time signatures throughout a song that it's almost hard to understand what they're doing at some stages because they're just really swinging out in all kinds of ways. But it all fits together, all because they're such great players. It all tends to just meld. It's amazing. Yeah. That's what got me listening to them when I was 15 or 17 or whatever, was that musicianship, incredible musicianship.
Yeah, no, look, I did really enjoy it, and which surprised me a little bit because I had heard of them for so long, and maybe heard one or two songs. If you remember that TV show Chuck from about 10 years ago, an American show, Rush was, I think, specific in one episode where the music played, and that was my only exposure to their music. Whereas I love The Who and I love Jefferson Airplane, and sort of bands like that have Manfred Mann. I love Manfred Mann and the Kinks and stuff like that. And I would say that Rush is the next step towards metal from that group, that Britpop, that Brit Invasion.
They're one of those. Rush is one of those bands. If you're not a fan, you would have heard their music, their songs without knowing it was them.
You said that about Black Sabbath.
Did I?
Yeah, okay. And I still don't know.
Black Sabbath.
But no, I can't pick any. The only Black Sabbath or Ozzy Osbourne song I know was the jazz cover they did on the Osbournes. I up until recently hadn't heard. I'd gone 35 years without hearing Ozzy Osbourne, but knew that he bit the head off a freaking bat.
No, I reckon you probably did.
Always knew who he was. So I don't know. I don't know how so many bands, because I do love music and I have such a broad range of music. I don't know how so many bands or even solo singers have gotten past me over the years. I guess it's just that family influence growing up, that what they liked was what I was exposed to. So
have you seen, because you watch these sort of movies, have you seen the movie Megamind, the animated movie?
Yes, we talked about this, where Black Sabbath is in it.
Well, it's Ozzy Osbourne solo. Yeah, Crazy Train. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but doesn't mean I'd recognized it enough to know that that's what
that's what I was saying about. I was saying about Rush, that you would have there's probably songs that you would have heard and you just wouldn't.
Yeah. I was I had heard it in Chuck. It was used in Chuck. But I want to know, why does he sing in a British accent?
Well, he's Canadian.
I know, that doesn't mean he's British.
I don't
racist.
I don't hear a British accent.
I heard a British accent.
I don't think I heard a British accent either.
Maybe
he has Geddy Lee, he's got a unique voice.
Maybe I'm affected by Halloween Town from last night with that fiddly-dee potatoes voice.
Yeah, but he's got a very distinctive voice and some quite interesting phrasing. But yeah, I never heard.
I heard British.
Okay. See, I always thought they were American for so long, because you just assume everything's American when you're a kid and you hear rock music. So it probably took me 5 years to find out they were Canadian, and then it all clicked and went, oh, that's why they're so good. That's why they're a bit out there.
I was surprised when I read Canadian.
Okay.
I was. No, I oh, okay, cool. We love our Canadians.
We do.
We do.
They're nice people. But Closer to the Heart was a huge hit off this album, because it was single friendly.
That's the one that repeats that line over and over and over again. That did annoy me a little bit, to hear that same line over and over again.
Yeah.
Which is really just my problem, because then I can listen to songs like Rihanna's You Got Love, which really has no lyrics at all, except We Found Love, which just repeats pretty much the same thing over and over again. Or Fatboy Slim, he repeats the same thing over and over again. I can still listen to him.
If you cut out all of the songs in history that repeated the same thing over and over, I think you'd probably halve the amount of output.
I know.
From top musicians.
I know. Because all the reprises in musical theatre and motifs that run through. Yeah, I know. I'm a hypocrite. I know. I can
think of one in Rent, actually. I'm going to look it up just so that I'm not such
Without you. And it just repeats the same. Gareth loved Rent.
The wind blows, the seas run without you. It's a hard song because it just repeats and repeats and repeats. But it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful.
It took probably about 5 or 6 years of hearing it so often for it to grow on me. But that was my least favourite song upon seeing it originally and having the the cast album. But no, we did Rent recently, and I was certain Gareth's gonna love this. It's an important story about AIDS and artists struggling and all this stuff that he full on supports.
Yes.
And the horrible stuff that came out of his mouth, I was so hurt for weeks. I couldn't.
You ain't heard nothing yet.
Couldn't
It
believe
splits the
it.
room, Red. I directed a production of it for Ballarat Performing Arts Academy.
Oh, yeah?
You know, I absolutely love the show. But
Yeah.
it's, you know, it went into production before it was really, really finished. So there's parts of it that probably need tweaking, but it's still, when it's done well, and I think we did pretty well.
Yeah.
I think it's a great show.
Yeah, as I said, it's one of those shows that you can hear the cast are excited to be on stage. They want to be there. They want to be belting this music out, and you get that energy from them. So,
Absolutely, I saw it on Broadway back in 90. Well, was it 96?
And that would have been the original Broadway cast too.
It was the original Broadway cast, and it absolutely blew my tiny mind. I remember the lights going down. We were in house seats because we won the lottery to get in, and so we were in really good seats. Lights came down, and the first song happened, and the energy on stage and the kind of, you know, the sort of rage those kids were kind of raging at AIDS and all that. It was brilliant. It just blew my mind. Best things I've seen.
It was. I remember Gareth didn't even know that Larson had died before the preview started, so he's gone into this review scathingly, and but yes, it's
yeah.
Okay.
I'm not gonna change my mind just because, you know, someone died. I'm not gonna go, oh, he's dead now. Okay, then, you know, everything he did was wonderful. Anyway,
no, but it adds a whole new layer to the show and what it's about in terms of No Day But Today and grabbing life by the balls and all that jazz.
Rent was one of those shows. I've only ever heard the audio and the you know, the soundtrack and whatever. I think it, again, and I've said it so many times over this podcast, it's one of those, I think just only hearing it does it a complete disservice. And I'm sure if I'd seen that instead of Aladdin on Broadway, I would have been far more impressed. So
probably, yeah.
I think if I'd seen anything other than Aladdin on Broadway, I would have been impressed. So I met, it's funny, I don't think I told you this, Aaron. I met when I was in New York and we saw Aladdin. I was in Central Park and there's these guys playing softball, and we just kind of sat down next to them, wanted to watch the game. And this guy came up and just started chatting to us, and it turned out to be the cast of Dr. Zhivago, which was playing at the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so we got chatting, and he said, "Oh, have you seen any shows?" And he said, "Yeah, saw one the other day." He said, "What did you see?" And I said, "Aladdin," and you could just see his face drop, and he's just like, "Oh." But they were nice to us. And then I think Dr. Zhivago had about another 2 months run, and didn't really set the world on fire. But
my wife did Dr. Zhivago here.
Yeah, with Anthony Wallow.
Yeah,
that was the world premiere, I believe.
Yeah, I actually really liked it. I saw it a few times actually, and I thought it had. I mean, it was a show that was still being honed. Like they were the music arranger would arrive at rehearsals with whole new pages, you know, to learn and to change, and everyone was like, "Oh, hang on, this wasn't what we had yesterday, and let's try this." And, so it was all still, you know, being mucked around, But I thought it was a terrific show. I really enjoyed it. It was well put together.
I didn't think I've seen it.
I didn't see it, but the cast were lovely. They were really nice.
Well, that's all that's important.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that was it. And I kind of wish I'd seen it. But is that, Jeremy? Before we get too deep into anything, is that normal for a Broadway production to literally after it's open to make changes and that sort of thing and shuffle things around?
It not so much when it gets to Broadway, but prior to Broadway, they'll do what's called an out-of-town season, and
workshops and
they'll workshop it. They'll try it out in various different locations outside New York. You know, it can be anywhere in the country actually. I bumped into a director that directed me in Hello Dolly, and he was putting together a production of High Society, which is another show that I did. But his production was different. It was a completely different right to the one that I did. But anyway, they were workshopping it, and then they were trying it out in the provinces, I can't remember where they were. And then if it goes okay, then they'll book a theatre in New York and put it on there. And once it's on Broadway, it kind of lives or dies by what happens with the reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And there's very few shows kind of survive bad reviews. But I mean, interesting, recently, Eddie Perfect's show, Beetlejuice started to not so good reviews, but they whipped a few things around and they turned the season around. But unfortunately, the theatre, if you don't do well in the first few weeks, the theatre just dumps you. So they'll take someone else. So they kind of got dumped, and then the show became a hit. And so they were sort of, and then COVID happened. So who knows? Beetlejuice might make another appearance on Broadway because it just became the sudden hit out of nowhere, and then they had to close.
So I think we'll probably close the book on Rush. I think that was the success this week.
Great success.
Coming this summer, winter, spring, or fall, the first ever musical theatre sitcom, where you go behind the scenes of the latest West End show, the Fosse Forest Ballet.
Where's the important stuff? Aha! £1,000 a week ensemble rate. That's what Mamma Mia likes.
Starring Philip Joel and a West End cast featuring Kerry Ellis, Darren Day, Louise Demon, and Oliver Saville, and more.
It all started in 1987 when I was a jobbing actress working in a diner.
Yeah, it's just I had a really bad experience when I was touring Australia with a wombat.
Darling! Mwah, mwah. La, la. How long have I been mentoring you? 3 months?
2 years.
So her name is Henrietta.
The horse. Yes. I've managed to secure you an audition for the biggest, most innovative, and the latest show to be going into the West End. Joseph and his Technicolor Dreamcoat. Think more along the lines of Panto.
Frozen.
You can watch this episode for the price of a coffee. Simply go to www.thefosseforestballet.com. Any and all profits go back to theatre charities, acting for others, and the Theatre's Trust. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you'll see a grown man in sparkly tights.
Tight nights. Nice. Tights.
Your guests, or my guests, seem to have better taste in music than you do, Gareth. Fancy that. Whoever
okay
saw
with
that coming, you're okay with it? I'm absolutely fine with it too.
It's a bit hard. Jeremy chose Rush. Alison Fraser chose Rammstein. I mean, great. I'm gonna get these theatre people to choose all my albums from now on. It's great.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, Jeremy, people at home may have heard of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or as it's more commonly known from Hollywood, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and you were involved with the recent Australian tour. Now, I want to know, I don't know if I'll put this in the episode. I had a bit of a beef about this run because I noticed not your ad campaign, obviously the producer's ad campaign didn't show anything of the show, nor any of the music. And I sort of found that a bit misleading because I sort of thought they were luring people in thinking they're going to get the movie, but they're not getting the movie. That's sort of how I saw it looking at it from a business point of view, like doing the Into the Woods advertisement as a non-musical, or Sweeney Todd was advertised as a non-musical, so it tricked, you know what I mean? Like, I don't mean to offend or anything. That's something I observed, so I don't know.
Yeah, look, well, just to clear things, I wasn't in the
Resident
show.
director, sorry, I should have clarified that to begin with.
That was my first go at being a resident director, so it was a huge learning curve for me and very enjoyable. But I think what you're talking about with the advertising for the show was it was hard to promote in the sense that we didn't want to give away any of the surprises in the show.
Yeah, I can understand that sort of point of view.
In the second act, Charlie goes into the chocolate factory, obviously, and we didn't want to blow any of those big moments, when there was a moment where the Oompa Loompas came on stage, and it was in the contract with the rights that we could not show the Oompa Loompas in any way in any of the advertising, which is a shame. But the benefit was that when people were in the show, watching the show, and that moment happened, it would always get a huge response. Like the audience would just go nuts because I don't know whether they'd forgotten that the Oompa Loompas existed or whether they were coming into the show, but they came on and it just brought the roof down because the way we did them in the show, it just looked fantastic.
And I believe it was puppetry.
It was half puppetry. So
half puppetry, yeah.
You had heads sticking out of puppet bodies. So they looked like, even in the rehearsal room when we were rehearsing it, I was, sitting at the edge of, just a room with no lights or anything like that. And the Oompa Loompas would come on and they were just so lifelike. It was kind of spooky and creepy and weird and scary and wonderful. And it was really great.
And how was that sort of resident director experience for those at home, or Team Metal, I guess? The resident director...
for Gareth.
For Gareth as well.
Could you explain slowly using small words?
Yes, what a resident director does. Well, obviously, like, this production was based off the Broadway production, I'm presuming, and not the West End production.
It was based on based on the Broadway. That Jack O'Brien came out. His associate Matt Lenz came out as well. So we had the choreographer and his associate. So we had the full production team come out to do it, and so they weren't shy at changing things at all for us. It was based more on the American touring version of the show, which had already been kind of honed and tuned up and made better. And then they came out here and tuned it up even more. So my job was to notate the show and to look after it, rehearse that we had 4 boys that played Charlie, and to make sure that they were all working well and to keep the cast in tune and all that sort of stuff. And then when we changed cities, I had to come down to Melbourne to recast the boys and train them in. And then when we went to Brisbane, I did the same thing. I cast the boys up in Brisbane and then trained them in. So, my duties were to just keep the show running smoothly and in good shape.
And that way the big Broadway big guns can go off and do their big Broadway big gun productions, and us in Australia can take care of it. They literally leave town the day after opening night. So really?
Go on.
Oh wow, they don't stick around for long. Just back onto that ad campaign, I had a lot of people say to me, is this the movie, is it not? And I would say, well, I think you're not supposed to know. But I actually didn't know until recently that they had put the movie music into the show for this production, because it didn't do too well on the West End without that music in there. And Shyman and Whitman are talented as friggin' hell. Like, they're so good at what they do. But I think the audience wanted that music from the films. I don't know.
Well, it's beautiful music, like Pure Imagination. It's one of the great music theatre songs, and the Candyman opens the show now, and so there's some great little tunes in it from the show. We had the Oompa Loompa song, those sort of things are quite iconic, and if you don't get them in the show, I think people felt a little bit robbed. We had them in our show.
That's definitely what happened on West End, I think.
The script was definitely not the script from the film. It was very different. The first act was really all about Charlie and his journey to actually getting the golden ticket, and then the second act was really all about Wonka and his search for someone to take over the factory. So they had 2 very different halves, and that was kind of an intentional thing from Jack O'Brien.
Like, that was such a surprise how that whole thing happened. When it was announced and who the composers were, I thought, this is going to be a smash hit. And then it opened on West End, and it sort of, it had to go through those changes. It even had to change director and production team altogether. But anyways, it's not about Charlie. This week we are talking about charity.
Sweet charity.
Yes, there's a good segue for us. And as I said in our introduction, I was 12 years old when my mum bought me a ticket for my 12th birthday, to see this musical, which we did not know. we had no idea what it was about. And I was sitting on the balcony, the first balcony, front row, right in the middle, looking down at that bar that came up and all those pretty ladies in their skimpy red and black lingerie leaning over the bar, singing their Hey
Looking
Big
sexy
Spender.
as hell.
Yes, it was an eyeful, and I felt my mum shift so incredibly uncomfortably in her seat through that, at least the opening 10 minutes or so. But yes, this week we've imposed this CD. We imposed the recent Broadway revival from was it 2007 on
Is
Gareth.
that even classed as recent anymore? 2007.
Oh, well, after the year
But
we've all
anyway.
just had, I don't think any of us care about time anymore.
Yeah, that is true. I keep saying, oh, I was here 2 years ago, and I realised that last year's a complete write-off, and it was actually more like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, and
Man, yeah.
also, Jeremy, you may
look, there it
recognise
is.
that.
Ah,
That's
right.
from the production I had seen. Now, this was an original Australian staging of it that I think it only toured to Melbourne and Sydney,
Correct.
I believe. Yeah. And it
No
had-
Perth show. What a surprise.
No. And this is actually, Gareth, this is where the expression "a stripper with a heart of gold" comes from.
See, I thought that was Ozzy Osbourne. No, Motley Crue. No? Okay.
No, Sweet Charity. She is the stripper with a heart of gold, or the hooker with a heart of gold. And yes, so anyways, we'll dive into it further, but I'd like to know what Gareth thought of this wonderful,
No, you
iconic musical. Yes, I
No,
do.
you don't. No, you don't.
I'm not cold like you. Always like to know what you think.
As usual, I knew absolutely nothing about this, and I listened to it probably 5 or 6 times before I even read anything into it. And and what I found out was, so I'm listening to it, and I'm going, it's all very familiar and
It is, isn't
big
it?
spender. And the
Yep.
first thing I thought was, oh, they're just chucking in a bunch of, let's just make a musical out of a bunch of someone else's songs, and let's just put these big hits in there. And I'm sitting there going, this is just fucking lazy.
That does
honestly, it's just
happen.
you're a bloody cover band,
But not this time.
It's a jukebox musical full of hits.
It is. I'm going, he's done it to me again. And I did not know. And then If My Friends Could See Me Now, which is it's another, it was probably a huge hit, and I think it's been covered I don't know how many times. But Big Spender, I'm sure when I was, knee high to a grasshopper, is it Shirley Bassey she had a bit of a hit with Big Spender? Yeah.
Yep.
So that's where
One of them.
that's where I knew it from. Didn't yeah, I mean, she had a lot, but I remember that one.
No, in terms of like from the show, though.
Boa. Yeah.
That is,
Which is right. So I'm listening to it. I didn't pick up on the story straight away. And again, I think it's one of those things you've got to see it live to so everything kind of meshes in together and it makes sense. Straight up, between me and at least half of my friends from high school, Christina Applegate, just 5 stars. Who knew she could sing?
Can she? I'm kidding. I am.
She's very talented.
She is very talented. She's more of a dancer. That's
okay,
because it's a dance show more than it is a musical.
Which is a shame because I haven't seen it, so I've only heard the music. It's a odd story, and reading through it, it still doesn't make sense. I still don't know why Charity's boyfriend pushed her in the pond, and then she tries to she tries to convince herself that he didn't, or I don't know. It was a little bit odd, and she ends up in the room with the Italian, and he shoves her in the closet and makes love to his girlfriend, and I was just like, okay, this is a bit out there.
Yeah, and try being 12.
Yeah, I know.
But I wasn't an ignorant child. I had seen a lot of stuff before then, but on cinema, which is a little bit different to seeing things live on stage when you've got these bustiers that are...
Yeah,
My memory is not really helping here, but we were talking about shows that are altered and changed, once they've opened and all that sort of thing. Yep. Sweet Charity's got 2 endings. There's a sad ending where Oscar pushes her into the lake, and she gets out, and she's, she goes, I'm gonna, make it. It's, all it does is drive her on to find happiness.
Yep.
And there's another ending where he leaves her, but he can't bear the thought of not having her, so he comes back. And the last scene is they make up and they get together. And I can't remember whether I know in Melbourne we had the unhappy scene where I pushed her in the lake. But
you were Oscar. You played
I was
Oscar.
Oscar.
That was going to be one of my questions. I'm like, geez, I hope you weren't Oscar, because he was a dick.
Yeah, he was a dick. But I think I can't remember. But I think in Sydney we played the happy ending, and there was also 2 different songs for Oscar at the end of the start of the second act, where he sings a little love song to Charity. And again, I can't remember whether I changed from the Melbourne season to the Sydney season playing the 2 different songs, but there's 2 different songs for Oscar in that show. Oh, wow. So there you go. There you go.
Well, in the Melbourne production that I saw, scene 11, the park finale, that's all it says. So if she gets pushed into a lake, I'm guessing that's going to be in the park. However, if he realizes that he loves her and goes back to her, that could be anywhere.
Both scenes happen in the park.
Both. Okay. Oh, well, then we're just as we have no idea.
So this is where I become a little unreliable. You have these musical theatre people who have got memories like snapping traps. Like they're just like they remember it, like line for line, what happens in the different ending. And if you were talking to Tony Sheldon, he'd probably tell you exactly what Oscar says and what Charity says and blah blah blah, even though he wasn't even in the show. But some people have got those kind of minds, and I don't have one. Yeah. But I have this vague recollection of, because the other thing too, when we did that production, we had a different director in Sydney. So David Miles directed it in Melbourne, and we had a whole kind of big backdrop which was animated. It was one of the first LED screens that I've ever seen in the theatre. It was like this big LED thing, but it was really early technology, and so
it was.
The lights, we had to keep the show quite dark because the lights would wash out the backdrop, which wasn't ideal. And so when we went to Sydney, David Atkins redirected the show, and we changed the set a lot. And I actually got an elevator in the Sydney season, which we literally, it was quite specky. We got in the elevator together, and then it kind of broke down halfway up the pros. So we were like suspended in midair. And it looked like a real elevator, so it was a bit better. In the Melbourne season,
it was a love heart in the middle of the stage.
So we had to mime being in an elevator, which was a bit tricky.
Anyway, I do remember that.
I don't even recall you asking me to tell you any anecdotes about the show, but
please. That's why we invite people on, because to get that insight and all that.
Ignorance.
The show was extremely different in Sydney, and it was just a different director, different take on it, and anyway, but it was a great fun show.
Yeah, just to explain to the people at home about this backdrop, this is something I've always remembered, because it flipped me out, like how they, or not necessarily how they did it. It was obvious how they did it, projections and stuff like that, but how well those projections all worked. With these, they were basically just flat. Was it a cityscape? I think it was against the wall. So it was kind of 3D flat shapes of a cityscape, but the projections would take us. For once, it would be a cityscape, but then we would be at a carnival, and there'd be sort of a Ferris wheel, and everything. All these projections fitted in so perfectly with the cutouts and the shapes of this cityscape. And I was blown away by it, because I'd seen Beauty and the Beast by Disney by then, and that was a big show with lots of special effects, right? But you sort of expect that from Disney. So to see sort of technology and stuff like that being used in other shows that weren't Disney, weren't, big blockbuster $1 billion productions. And I remember seagulls on it. Seagulls being projected.
That's right. There was a bird that used to fly across the backdrop and then down, and I think Charity used to kind of go and interact with the bird somehow. But that backdrop almost did our director's head in, because in Tech Week, when we actually went to light it, every time the lighting designer put a light on, it would affect the backdrop. So, you couldn't light the show. And then the spot operators had to be very careful not to shine a spot on the backdrop, because otherwise, that would wash it out. And it was hellish tech week, because what we thought we were going to get and what we got were quite two different things, and we had to work out how, because it was, as I said, brand new technology, where they went, oh, this will be good, won't it? But I mean, it's really good now, but
it is, isn't it?
And it was not really good.
I do think, whilst I love I love being able to transport your audience on a stage. This is why I love theatre, but I do think that these projections are being overused a lot of the times. In Australia, we had the professional Hairspray tour, which was completely different to Broadway, and it was a moving cartoon. There was screens, was pretty much the only set, was these screens that would play these cartoon imagery of moving sets and stuff like that, like streetscapes and stuff like that. And whilst it was visually spectacular, I miss those sets. I miss things popping up or popping down from the fly tower, or some huge thing coming up from the bottom of the stage. And so I do long for them to use it more sparingly. Use it behind windows and stuff like that, I think, to expand beyond the physical set that you've got. But then they turn around and say, oh, but sets distract from the story. But what is technology doing other than distracting from the story half the time? So that's just my personal opinion. I do think they're being used a bit too much, I think, for some.
Yeah, I think it needs to support what's going on stage, not overwhelm it.
Yeah, I want to see that craftsmanship. Those sets that have been a set that could maybe only be 2 meters deep, but when you're looking at it from the audience, it looks like a friggin' house or something like that. And it because of the dimensions and the way the perspective that they've built it. That's why I love theatre. So I do long for that, but I know that they want to get bums on seats, and that the more, I'm guessing.
Yeah, we had a lot of projections and black backdrops and all that.
Yeah.
But it kind of worked in that show, because in the first act it was pretty much just creating a space, and it was black and white. There was very little color. Mm-hmm. And then when you went into the factory, suddenly all of the wizardry, the technology came into play. So there was incredible, projections and spaces created on the backdrops with the LED lights, and so that worked really well. But I think that's the sort of show that can take it. I haven't seen Aladdin, but I imagine something similar would happen in Aladdin or Frozen, or something like that.
Yeah,
no, there wasn't actually projections in Aladdin, which I was thankful for. I was so thankful there were sets. The party trick
I saw is they made the magic carpet fly, and you couldn't see that. You couldn't see them, so they did it quite well. Although I didn't see the whole production.
That sarcasm in your voice.
No, you couldn't see. It was actually quite well done. And when we met the cast afterwards, they actually said to us, "Ask us anything, but don't ask us about the flying carpet," because I think they'd been probably bored to death with talking about the flying carpet. So yeah, look, but the rest of it, there was no productions. The rest of it was just kind of more a traditional set.
We had a really great trick in Charlie, where he writes a letter to Wonka, and he folds up the letter as he's singing a song to him, and then the letter that he's just written and folded up, he picks up and he throws it. And it's connected to a little wire that you cannot see, like it's impossible to see it. And then it flies right up through the theatre and up into the roof of the theatre. And every single show would take the audience's breath away. Just a simple thing like that was brilliant, because it's just this tiny little boy on stage singing a song, writing a letter, folding the letter into a plane, and then off it goes. It was just a beautiful moment.
Yeah. So that's the sort of reason why I love theatre. Just the physical magic of it. What do you do?
When you talk about the little boy on stage, and with Charlie, obviously when you've cast children, you've got multiples. Same with Billy Elliot. I mean, what age are we looking at here of a young boy standing there belting it out in front of a theatre full of people?
You broke up quite badly then, but I think what you asked me was how old were the boys in the Charlie show? Yeah. Okay. We had a casting range of between 9 and 12, I believe. And so we would just look at more so how tall they were and how mature they were. We want the younger looking, the better. In Melbourne, we cast a boy who was actually going to turn 13 during our season. And we were really worried that he was going to go into puberty. And the minute Charlie goes into puberty, it's all bets are off, because it really has got to be about a boy, you know, not a pubescent young man, you know. So we usually cast 4 kids for that role, but in Melbourne we cast 5 because we thought, well, what if we lose one halfway through the season? So we didn't. In fact, he was so brilliant, this kid. He had a beautiful sort of childlike nature on stage, but when he came off, he was so bright and he would speak to you like an adult. You know, he's just. I said to him when he did his final show in Melbourne, you know, all of the other boys were really upset. Everyone was like, "Oh, we're going to lose you." Da, da, da. And I said to him before the show, I said, "How do you feel about it being your last show?" And he looked at me and he said, "Jeremy, I'm just going with the flow." And I was like, you know, that's the way, pal. You know, that's you know, his version of life. But yeah, he was terrific. So the youngest I think we had was, and the oldest was turning 13. So you could tell just in terms of, you know, the kids between those ages, there's a big difference in terms of their development. So some kids, you had to really coach them super hard, you know, just really give them lots and lots and lots of help. But fortunately, we had 3 boys that we cast in Melbourne that had all done quite a lot of theatre. You know, there was kids that had done Priscilla and Kinky Boots and Les Mis and Boy from Oz, and you know, some of these kids had a bigger CV than some of the kids in our ensemble. You know, the adults. It's like, wow. So they were really super professional, and they had a few tricks that I had to just coach out of them. Yes. But yeah, I love working with kids. You know, it was a very special time, and we had some really bright sparks.
Yeah. Is there a particular musical that you're longing to direct, to get your hands on?
Sweeney Todd.
Sweeney Todd? Oh, yeah, Gareth loved that one too. He was so thrilled by that one.
I think Sweeney Todd's probably the best musical ever written.
It's fantastic. This guy, I'm telling Jeremy, what I have put up with for the past 20-something episodes has been awful. All these amazing musicals, and he's just like, no, it's awful. This is why I don't like musicals.
I think I said done right, Sweeney's favorite one.
Yeah, but you gave it 1 star.
Yeah. Look, you know what? I'd hate to kind of get in between the two of you here, but that's perfectly fine in my book. I can understand why people would not like Sondheim.
Yeah.
Sondheim is really difficult, and you can hear a song from Sondheim and go, "What was that?" And then listen to it 3 or 4 more times and just go, what it was a work of genius.
Yep.
But not all people have got that gene. My younger brother is a musical theatre hater, and, you know, a couple of times I've put him through coming to see me in musicals, and he's hated the experience so much. But he didn't bother coming to see me in Priscilla. He saw me in what was it? South Pacific, and just which was a show I was really proud of. I thought it was a beautiful production, and he hated it.
Oh, really?
So, you know, I kind of live alongside people who hate musical theatre, and I kind of get it. It's like musical theatre is, you know, it's not for everybody.
No.
But at the same time, I've got to tell you, neither is heavy metal.
No,
absolutely.
exactly.
Oh,
and that's
absolutely.
what this show is for,
There's a whole-
is for both sides to come together and see what we see in our respective worlds, basically.
I actually have to sit in the position where, you know, like I listen to death metal and I go, how can anyone ever like respond to that in a positive way? Like what is death metal to the world? And then I have to you have to put yourself in that position and go, well, some people listen to music theatre and think the same thing.
They do.
So, you know,
Why would you?
I get it all. I get it. I just happen to kind of, I move in all kinds of territories. I like all sorts of different things. Yeah. But that's my answer is Sweeney Todd. I almost got my hands on a production once and it didn't come off. I was like, oh, damn. But I'd love to direct it one day.
Do you have your leads in mind? Like who would be your ideal Nelly and Sweeney?
Oh, God, that's a good question.
Yeah.
No, I do not.
Really?
No, I do not.
Oh.
One of my best mates is a fella called Greg Stone. I reckon he'd be a pretty damn good Sweeney Todd.
Yeah. I'd like, because we've talked obviously with metal and musicals together, and we talked about Sweeney Todd in the metal version or the prog metal version that there is. There is a couple of Australian metal musicians. One of them's Jim Gray from Caligula's Horse.
Yep.
With a bit of training, he might have a really good voice for it. Possibly.
With a bit of training, I'll let Jim know.
Hang on. Singing in musical theatre is a little bit different to singing in a rock band, buddy. So you do need to train your voice there because you're holding notes. You're singing in a different style, okay? It's not to offend him.
You're doing 8 shows a week too.
And you're doing 8 shows a week, so you need to learn your stamina there. Plus, you're acting at the same time. You're acting while you're singing. You're singing through your eyes, which is an expression that is just ridiculous, but apparently we sing through our eyes.
Sometimes maybe I should listen to through my eyes more.
Yes,
Maybe
I think so.
Maybe that'll make it.
Pay better attention. But you know, so we'll round up on Sweet Charity because I still don't know if Gareth you liked that.
No, it surprised me.
It surprised me.
It surprised me. As I said, I listened to it and then I put it in the bin of you've just chucked a bunch of
songs together,
popular songs together, and hey, look, we made it fit. And then those songs actually came from it, which every time that happens, and I should know by now.
Yes.
That some of these songs, especially these ones from the 50s and
60s
and whatever that.
But I did.
Guys and Dolls will be the same.
Yeah.
And
I
again,
Pajama Game.
One. Although we did Hello Dolly, and
I didn't hate that.
You didn't.
High Society's the same. It's full of hits.
No, you played Cornelius, was it? Oh, Barnaby.
I played Cornelius Hackle, yeah.
Yes, in a.
We're going to New York, Barnaby.
Yeah.
Yeah, we played that, and yeah.
That was our first episode, and I was quite surprised by how Gareth took to that one. But of course, it was all downhill from there.
For Hello Dolly?
No one.
It
no one.
was just us.
Solo. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We went 6 whole episodes together before we decided we needed
a referee. We need to stick someone in the middle.
We need someone to separate.
She's lovely.
I know, right? But anyways, sweet. Yeah, I'll tell you what, Sweet Charity.
I would go and see a production of this.
Of course you would. You pervert.
I'm not. Look, I don't. Again, like death metal isn't for some people. This sort of thing's not really for me. I don't love the music. I know a few of the songs. Obviously, look, I'd go and it's not terrible at all. This is not high praise, I know.
It's sweet.
Look, it's not my thing. Look, it is a little bit sweet, and it's still a little bit confusing for me, the storyline. But I think again, if I saw it, a production of it, I'd probably appreciate it a bit more. But it's it's a fun story, and you've got to think when it came out, it was a little bit, probably more than a little bit risque, which is one thing that I'm finding out about musical theatre is they really push the envelope and have been for obviously decades.
Oh yeah,
which is something as someone who is, I'm with your brother in the I hate musical theatre, but I don't.
Not anymore, you do.
But no, there's little gems out there. But yeah, that's the one thing, and I think that makes, I appreciate the fact that these guys are out there, because from an outsider, you're just looking at big cheesy numbers and jazz hands and all this sort of thing, and everything's a big production and off we go. But when you dig into it, I mean, there's a fair bit of subversion going on, and I do like that. I love that. So, like, I'm out of 5. This is a solid 3, which is
wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah,
I was not expecting that.
Also, Christina Applegate. So,
well, yeah, that's why I picked that one, because I knew that you couldn't resist Kelly Bundy.
Me and half of my year 10 high school class was
exactly
Kelly Bundy. Yeah,
and
she's. I didn't realize she's 50 this year. I was thinking, if I look half as good,
you do not stand a chance with her, Gareth. You do not even entertain the idea. You stand zero chance with Christina Applegate. No.
No.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I chose this album. But I'll tell you what, Sweet Charity is probably the one musical that I personally relate to the most, because that's my life, is one hapless situation after the other. And me getting up, brushing myself off, and laughing it off, and doing it all over again the next day. But there have been moments in my life, as you would know, where I've been working with people that are so far above my pay grade, or people that I've admired. I mean, here I'm sitting here with my personal hero on my show, right? That's how I often have felt.
Jeremy, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, I thought you were okay. No, sorry. I thought that was me again. I was going to blush.
Yet again, your jokes do not land. Anyways, what I'm saying is that's how I often feel in the song, If They Could See Me Now. But also, I'm the bravest individual, because all of those things that I've achieved in life and worked with those people have been my courage to message people, or to email, or to phone call, to create those opportunities for myself.
That's a great song. It's a great song. Just a standalone song. That's a great song.
I'm the bravest individual.
Yeah.
It is, isn't it? But yeah, so it's all these songs and the rhythm of life, obviously, and I don't know about you, but now, after episode 10, I cannot hear that song without hearing the great wisdom of our friend Jonathan X, who just directed the Oscars nomination show yesterday. So if you saw that on YouTube,
I saw that.
He was the one saying, camera 1, all right, switch to camera 2. All right, we're going to cut to this clip now and all that. So well done on that. It didn't fall apart at the seams again, thanks to good old Jonathan. But I always hear his wisdom in that song now, because he talks about the rhythm of life, and that's how he directs. So you would have heard that song on a car commercial recently too.
I see. I don't, and this is going to sound, I just don't watch commercial television. I don't.
Well, neither do I, but even I've seen that commercial.
Not if I can help it. It's got to be a pretty good drama for me to tune in to commercial TV. So
yeah, but you would see this live. Wow.
No, I would. If there was a production and it came to Perth, yes, I would see it.
Gareth has a theory about male characters in musicals, that they are either douchebags or morons. Would you agree or disagree, having played Oscar, who we have established is a bit of a dick?
It's a bit of a dick. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think that is it's a metal generalization.
It is, isn't it?
It's simplistic.
Males in musical theatre. However,
I mean characters. There's some
the characters, not the actors. No, we're not insulting you personally.
No. I didn't take it as that. Okay. No, I'm just kind of thinking back through the characters that I've played, and I think, if you can consider Buddy a character in musical theatre, he was, hugely heroic.
He was.
I don't know. Yes, Oscar Lindquist. Yes, Cornelius Hackle. Yes, but flawed people who are striving for something and need to be taught. Are women more heroic in musical theatre? Possibly. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
don't know. But it is a discussion to be had.
Yeah. I think so. And I'm not saying that it needs to change at all. It's just a theory. We both have our ongoing theories in this show that we're exploring basically, and that's
Well,
his. So I thought I'd bring that up.
My theory started with Hello Dolly, completely
did.
baseless theory, but it started with Hello Dolly because I thought, look at all the male lead in this. I can't remember the boss's name. He was just a horrible person, and I thought,
look at all these females. They're just running roughshod over, and Barnaby and Cornelius. I'm like, guys, there's more to life than getting kissed, honestly. So
get your act together. No, I think you've got there's definitely a theory there. I think perhaps there's there's a PhD to be had somewhere, a thesis to be done.
There's my PhD. I've been looking for it
feeding his
for
ego.
20 years.
I'm the one that's going to have to put up with this ego for the next however many weeks as he tries to prove his point even further.
No,
you're not wrong. I don't think musicals are very much star vehicles a lot of times for the female. In a way, I think that's Mama Rose, who you wouldn't know who Mama Rose is, so nod and smile, Gareth. That whole show is a star vehicle for Mama Rose, very much so. And then Hello Dolly and Mame, things like that. But then
don't know that one either.
Trying to think of a male musical that does have a single male showcase role like that.
Oh, Hamilton, which I haven't seen.
Would you say though? Because
I don't know.
That's such an ensemble piece.
Yeah,
so
I don't know.
Whereas with the males, it seems to be like duos, like the producers and stuff like that, where there's two of them. But I trying to think of La Cage aux Folles with Albin.
Oh, of course. No, I don't know.
You don't know what that
Les
is.
Miserables.
Yeah, but also with Les Mis, it's the two of them. It is a duo of Valjean and Javert that I personally think are showcased in that.
Yeah, but every protagonist is going to have an antagonist. So
that's true. Yeah.
But I mean, really, Les Mis follows Jean Valjean through his, the trial. It just happens to have a very strong antagonist in the show.
Yeah.
And along the way, there's all sorts of stuff. But he's the one who drives us through that show.
What did you think of that movie? Off topic.
I thought it was diabolical.
What about Cats? Have you seen Cats?
Oh,
I haven't seen
my son watched it and he said, Dad, it was the closest thing I've imagined to being on acid and not in a good way.
Really?
So,
You know what? I thought it was so wonderful for being so dumb.
yeah.
It's one of those best worst movie. Sort of
It
thing.
is, but the sets and all that were fun.
Yeah, I don't think it's not quite The Room.
So,
Yeah.
but
Well,
anyway,
no, I didn't see it. I actually quite liked Cats on the stage. I know that. I mean, I can hear my brother behind me, like hands facing his hands, going, "No!"
I can hear the theatre community doing that at the moment.
I think Cats is. I really enjoyed it. Last production I saw of Cats, I went with I took one of our neighbours. She had never been to a proscenium arch theatre before. She'd never seen a big musical. She must have been 12 or 13, and I took her to the preview of Cats at the Regent Theatre in Melbourne because some friends of mine were in it, and we were sitting on the aisle, and so when the show started and the Cats came down the aisle and they looked at her and stuff, she was like, oh. Even just being in the theatre was this incredible thrill for her. Like she was so excited about everything, and then watching. So I saw the show through the prism of being with her, I think.
Yeah.
And also that production was sung really well. Like usually Cats isn't sung very well, but it was sung really well. And I went, you know what? As kind of daggy and dated as Cats is, I really enjoyed sitting there with that young lady watching the show, and it was a privilege to kind of share that theatre experience, So to all those people going, "Oh, you're a big dag, Jeremy," it's like, well, you can get cynical about all sorts of stuff, but there are some, pretty extraordinary things about that show.
Yeah,
it was a hit for a reason.
It was.
I did the same thing
With my youngest daughter, with Matilda, I took her, and I saw Matilda in Melbourne, and I flew back to Perth, and then I took my youngest daughter. I said, "You need to see this," and doing the same thing, watching it through her, and the way that she reacted to it, and she was probably 10 at the time, I'm guessing. I'd have to look it up, but it was just that joy and the wonder. I'm sitting there and going, okay, now I get it, and ended up seeing that show 3 times, which was quite bizarre. But
I saw Lion King on the opening night in Melbourne when it first came out here. Just with my wife and I went, and I remember thinking, I appreciate this show, but I would absolutely love it if I had my kids here.
Yeah.
I hated it.
Lion King.
I did not like it at all. I was so disappointed. It was messy and childish, and it was a letdown. I had such high hopes, like you wouldn't believe. But anyways, that's another story. But no, I totally get it. Had that experience in the theatre watching you in Buddy with those sets and all that thrill of that excitement and all that. So I know exactly what you're talking about there in terms of seeing Cats through that child's eyes, because that was me, you know, and that's why I'm here today. That's why I've done all the things since then. Like,
yeah,
and I know that's a story you hear so often of children or even adults sitting in their first theatre show in a big theatre and just being blown away by what they're seeing.
The reverse, I can tell you, the reverse is not true. You can take a 14-year-old to an Alice Cooper concert and she is not going to enjoy it the same way her dad is.
Yeah.
No.
I saw Alice Cooper in 1975, I think.
Oh, wow.
At Festival Hall in Melbourne. It was great. The same year I saw Queen. It was like just amazing.
Yeah. Okay. I was 4, so but I'm still a bit jealous. So
yeah.
Actually, Queen and Alice Cooper were the last two of the last 3 international acts I saw just before COVID hit in 2019. So they were both in February. So yes, it was going through your Facebook and the silly things pop up, and I thought, oh God, that was COVID. That was COVID year, and then everything all went to hell. So yeah, Queen with Adam Lambert. There's a guy that can sing. So yeah, it was great.
I quite like Adam Lambert, and also he is from musical theatre.
And Alice Cooper played King Herod in Jesus Christ Superstar. So there we go. That's another. Everyone knows the show. I've never seen it. I've never heard it. So it's another one of those.
It's fantastic. It's
one of those. It's like Charlie and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory it's just become part of popular culture. And the songs, and everyone knows what a Oompa Loompa is, and everyone knows the Golden Ticket and Willy Wonka and that sort of thing. And you don't even have to know anything about musical theatre, and they just all. That's because it was a movie. And I'm sure the movie had a lot to do with it, but. People, it's sort of part of, it's now just part of our popular culture, and it's quite amazing how it sort of crosses over like that.
I think it was Sammy Davis Jr. had the popular cover of Candyman. Was it Sammy Davis Jr.? I'm going to say yes, it was. It was him.
Just say
yes, it was. No, we shouldn't get back onto Charlie, because we're actually giving you that CD next week, the Broadway cast that has F. Michael on it.
Okay.
Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. He played Augustus Gloop in that show. So you'll be diving into that one next week.
Let's do that. Okay.
Yes, I believe you have a couple of questions for Jeremy. That is.
Do I? Okay. I was going to ask because I'm not a musical theatre person, and when Aaron said we're having Jeremy Stanford on, and I'm like, I know that name. And you've done some TV, and I've seen you in Jack Irish and one episode of Wentworth and a few others. And I suddenly remembered you were in Satisfaction, which is probably one of my favourite shows, which no one seems to have heard of.
Yeah, well, it's linked now to Sweet Charity, because we've got the whole dance hall hostesses and the
So there was
Pretty Ladies and Hey Big Spender.
Yeah. But I didn't realise this until you sort of started talking about so much musical theatre. I was going, is the love spread evenly over TV and theatre, or is the one that you just go, I'm going to jump at whatever what I'm offered first?
you could not split it, really. I think one of the funnest shows I did on TV was a kids show called Silver Sun, where I was playing the commander of a spaceship going to, another planet, taking a whole cargo of frozen humans that once we got there, we were going to repopulate the planet. And look, it was so much fun because every week we had a different script, which was, encountering all sorts of aliens, and it was like being in Star Trek. It was, my childhood fantasies come true. It was great fun. So, it was very, very dear to me, that show, being in it. Yeah. Just as, I've been really fortunate to have, Buddy was such a fantastic coup for me as an actor, because I play guitar and I sing, and so it utilised all my skills. And but at the end of every show, we'd have the audience up dancing on their feet and going crazy. Yeah. So in my book, I've been really fortunate to have fun things, like really satisfying fun shows in the theatre, but also some great times shooting TV, and So I think my whole policy as an artist over my career is, just keep doing different things. I do a lot of writing now. I've released a novel and I'm writing more, and I've directed a feature film, and I've directed musicals and plays and stuff. So I just try and keep it all bubbling along. It's just, there's always something new to discover in this biz. So that's my policy. And I couldn't tell you what I'd prefer to do. If someone offered me a great TV job, I'd jump at it, as I would with a great role on the theatre. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, sort of post or still COVID, you take anything that you're offered to at the moment. So I guess. So.
Well, at the moment, because it is still, quiet. I mean, TV and film are opening up a bit, but a pal of mine and we're just doing a duo playing music in bars at the moment. Playing acoustic glam rock in bars.
Yeah.
And it's just
in Melbourne.
Great fun. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We call ourselves Glam Jam.
Glam Jam. I'll have to look out for you, because I'm in Melbourne, but Gareth's in Perth. So.
Oh, there you go. Well, look us up on Facebook. We've got a little Facebook page called Glam Jam. But that's just, both of us are actors, and we played in a band years ago called the Melody Lords, which was a glam rock band, and we're sort of doing the same sort of shtick, but it's great fun, and it keeps us going creatively, and people who come love it. They just have such a good time, and so
and we're so lucky
being in Australia and being able to still do that, and that you can still perform, and you're still
working, and
that sort of thing. So I mean, Melbourne had it probably a bit harder than the rest of the country. But it's quite amazing when you look around the world and you just see that how far we've come, and how sort of healthy things are at the moment. So
fingers crossed it
keeps going, and because without the arts, where are we?
Exactly.
So
bored at home, complaining that you got nothing to watch, you got nothing to listen to, you got nothing to read. I read the comments. I read it all the time, and then people turn around and say, "Oh, fucking Hollywood." Make up your minds. Do you need something to watch, or is it fucking Hollywood? Like, you can't have it both ways, people. Seriously. But anyways, thank God for entertainment. Anyways, yeah, no, I think we won't keep you any longer. So thank you very, very much for joining us.
My pleasure, lads.
Yeah,
congratulations on your podcast.
No, thank you very much.
My pleasure to come along.
We have a whole 5 listeners, so it's not quite congratulations yet, but we have had some amazing guests on so far who believe in this silly little format that we are doing, believing in it enough to give up their reputation to join us, and we are so eternally grateful, because we just want to make people laugh and bring worlds together, 2 different worlds.
Great stuff.
After the last year we've had, I think we all kind of do need that.
The world needs a laugh. Yep.
It does. It really, really does. But yeah.
All right.
No, one last thing. I've performed a couple of songs from Sweet Charity on stage in reviews, and we did Rhythm of Life. But we also did, us boys in our acting class, we did Hey Big Spender, dressed up in sports gear, talking about gambling at 13, 14 years old.
Okay.
So we were guys at a bar. We were having beers and all that on stage, pretending to drink beer. And we were betting on sports. And that was our interpretation of Hey Big Spender. So
Okay.
that was my acting teacher, who I won't name because I won't get her in trouble for these maybe poor decisions that she made for us when we were children. And she was an adult and knew better. Could you imagine that today, though?
The show would be cancelled. Anyway, on that note.
Yes, on that note, thank you very much to Jeremy for joining us. Where can people find you on Twitters and social medias?
I've got a website, jeremystanford.com.au.
Yep.
Facebook.
Yep.
Whatever.
You got a novel out, which, how did I not know this in my research? I've had a month.
It's a novel called Rapture. And it came out in 2018, and I've got another couple. Hopefully, someone will publish them. Yeah. But so there you go. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you very much, Gareth. Excellent show today. And we should swap albums for next week. I'm giving you Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and you are giving me Metallica, Symphony, and Metallica. We are breaking the rules this week next week because of the Children of Bodom disaster, where Gareth decided to do that to me. So he's owed one a 5-star album. That's next week with F. Michael Haney from Broadway. So looking forward to that chat. So you at home, take care, and we shall see you next time.
Bye.
Excellent.
Like Quixon!